Welcome to Perspectives, a podcast where the clergy women of the First United Methodist Church of San Diego share their musings on scripture, theology, and what it has to do with us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Reverend Brittany, and I'm here with Reverend Hannah, and we are going to talk about where does it hurt on this episode of Perspectives. Our scripture for today comes from 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 1 through 8. There was a certain man of Ramathaim, a Zophite, from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroaham, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zeph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. One of his wives was Hannah. The other one was Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now this man used to go up year by year from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. On the day when Elkanah, sacrificed, he would give portions to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give a double portion because he loved her, though the Lord had closed her womb. Her rival used to provoke her severely to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah said, "Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? Why is your heart so sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" Oh, Reverend Hannah, This is the story of your namesake. So tell me, what do you think about this story of Hannah?
Okay, this story, you asked the question of where does it hurt? Mm-hmm. And when you ask someone where does it hurt, you might think about the personal hurting, the physical, but there can be emotional. Mm-hmm. And then that person, the hurting person, can be sitting on a hurting society.
Yeah.
So when I read this scripture, I think about where the people were at that time. Mm-hmm. And it was right after the judges' time and before moving into the kingdom. Mm-hmm. So theoretically, the Israelites were nomads. Mm-hmm. They had the promised land, but they didn't have anything solid. Mm-hmm. So they were politically weak. They were not a nation. They were without kings, whereas the other countries had kings. Mm-hmm. They were on the move and didn't have a king, so that means they were financially weak as well. And the judges, the time before this book of Samuel, says they were spiritually and religiously corrupt. Mm-hmm. And we see a lot of moral chaos throughout the judges. Mm-hmm. So there is that social atmosphere there. Mm-hmm. And here comes Hannah, born to this beautiful life where he was named Hannah, which means charming or attractive, over against Peninnah's fertile and prolific. Mm-hmm. So she's in that situation, and she's the first wife. We talk about polygamy here too.
Yeah, right.
So she's the first wife without children, and Peninnah, the second wife with children. They were in competition, rivalry. Uh-huh. And I think about her situation, her emotional distress. Where does it hurt? It hurts all over her. Right. Hurts her body and hurts physical condition and all those things. So when you're hurting in multiple ways, everything irritates you.
Yeah, it's amplified.
And that's what's happening to her. And her barrenness overrides anything else in her life. Her husband's love didn't matter, and she was just having anxiety over everything, not having a son, even if she was loved. So there were good things happening to her, bad things happening to her, but the bad things were influencing her good aspects of life. And this is why I was named after this Hannah, because she was praying fervently, and that's what my parents wanted me to do, and that's what I do every day. But she was praying to the point of being mistaken to be drunken.
Yeah.
And think about a woman having to pray like a crazy woman. How devastating her life situation might have been.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that there's sometimes the thing about Hannah, we don't learn that in this particular text because it's a little bit further down when you're talking about her praying. But the thing about Hannah that is so remarkable to me is that she expresses her pain outright to God, and it's not this very quiet like, God, I'm sad because I don't have a son. She's like weeping and she's going before God, really expressing this pain that she has, right? And I think that so often we are quiet about our pain. And Zora Neale Hurston has a quote. Zora Neale Hurston, the author of Their Eyes Are Watching God and many others. But there's a quote that she has that says, if you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and say you enjoyed it. And Hannah's like, listen, Penina is driving me nuts because she's, first of all, making fun of me. And she's essentially a bully to my situation. And not only am I sad that this woman is treating me like this, I am also sad that my state in the world allows her to be able to get me like this. Like my vulnerabilities are exposed to somebody who doesn't care about me and will use that to make me feel bad about myself, you know?
yeah, her personal situation is tied in with the social condition as
Of
well.
Israel, yeah. And, you know, Hannah is coming, Israel is, they have yet to have a king. So there is this moral corruption and all this, you know, thing going on. And Hannah is also, I think, looking for a change in what is happening around her, not just in her life personally, but the world around her in which she lives. You know, when the text goes on to say that she goes to Shiloh herself, right? And she goes to Eli the priest and seeking help, right? I think that her boldness and her audacity to make her pain known is what reminds God of her cry, right? It's this idea that, God, I need you. I need your help, as opposed to, I'm not hurting. It's not that bad, right? What really stuck out to me is I like Elkanah. I like the fact that he loves and cares for Hannah. But the thing that really kind of just twisted me up a little bit was, am I not more to you than 10 sons? And it's like, how often when someone is in pain do we position ourselves in proximity to be the center of their pain, right? This woman is not weeping because Elkanah does not love her. That is not why she is crying, right? You missing the whole point, right? You're trying to be compassionate, but in your compassion, you're missing the fact that this has absolutely nothing to do with you and that her pain is deep and it is heavy. And so asking her, why do you weep? That's a good question, Elkanah. Why don't you eat? That is a good question, Elkanah. Why is your heart so sad? That was the best one. And if he had left it right there, he would have got husband A+ gold star of the Bible for me. But am I not more to you than 10 sons? And it should have been, do you not feel more to me than 10 sons, right? In centering her pain as opposed to making himself the aggrandizing figure in that.
And moving the focus of the pain from the one who is suffering is what happens to us oftentimes. When we are comforting someone, when we are bringing comfort to or aid to those people who are suffering, we try to move the focus from that person's pain into my help or my love. So I think that's very classic biblical case.
And Hannah, when she goes later in the scripture, right, when she goes to Eli and she goes to the temple and she's crying and Eli thinks she's drunk, right? How often are we so perturbed by other people's expression of pain that they can calm down? It's not that serious. People die all the time. When is she going to get over it, kind of thing, right? It's almost as though their pain is so uncomfortable for us that it has to be something outlandish rather than us actually being able to see, oh, this person is in deep grief. That's why she's crying out to God like that, or that's why he's crying out to God like that, you know?
Yes, we are so used to putting them as elephants in the room, not touching on the differences. And when we notice someone's facial expression is dark, we fail to ask, what's wrong? We ask, how are you? And the other person, the other person has nothing, no other option but saying, I'm fine. Even if it's not fine, and deep inside. And
Hey, it's Reverend Trudy. Thanks for tuning in for this week's Perspectives. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Well, and all those other things, you know what you have to do, so that you can get the latest episode as they go live. And if you're really enjoying the conversation, I invite you to help support this ministry. You can give online at FUMCSD.org/give online. That's FUMCSD.org/give online. Thank you.
I think as a society in our culture, we've just been enculturated to be fine. And so that's our go-to. When we ask people how they're doing, we just expect them to say, I'm fine. And when they go into telling you they have a flat tire and their dog is sick and, they have a stomach ache, you took it too far. I didn't ask for all those details. I thought you were going to say I'm fine, so I could say I'm fine. We could make this pleasantry and walk away from each other.
transactional.
Exactly. Very transactional, right? But when someone actually has the gumption and the audacity to say, well, I don't feel well, and this is what's bothering me, and I'm hurting here, I think it kind of throws us for a loop because we're not used to that kind of audaciousness in presenting our pain.
Yes. And there's a lack of empathy here. As you mentioned, the first three expressions of care were good, except the last one. When this woman is waiting with uncertainty about her future and this mistreatment, abuse, and depression and sleeplessness and needing to pray all the time and losing her mind, there's that bitterness in her life. And when there's a bitterness in her, instead of connecting with her feelings, so let me take it back. Let me say, there's no way for me to understand someone else's pain, the way that person is going through. And that's the reality. I don't understand you having to live with the skin and your everything, your yourself, and you never understand how. But can we do something about acknowledging the pain of others to begin with?
Right. I think it's getting close enough to someone else's pain so that you might be able to hold it with them. You can't change it, right? Elkanah couldn't give her a child, otherwise she would have had one already, right? But sitting in the proximity to her pain, to me, is what makes that interaction beautiful, with the exception of him asking about, am I not enough, essentially? Because at that point, sometimes I feel Elkanah, right, has been offering her double portions for as long as they've been married, right? Even though she hasn't had a child and she's only supposed to get a single portion, but he loves her so much that he gives her a double portion. So he feels like, well, what else can I do? Am I not enough, right? And I think that sometimes when we are offering care to people, when they haven't progressed to where we think they should, we then say, well, what am I not doing? Why haven't you gotten that far yet, And it becomes frustrating for us in our care because we expect them. We've done all we can do. Is my love not enough for you? Yes. Not realizing that people's pain and how they experience it and how they process it through their experiences and through their trauma, through their abuse, through whatever may have happened to them, is how they respond and how they show up in the world. And so their timeline is not our timeline, and none of our timeline is God's timeline.
That's
right?
true. You just mentioned yours and mine and God's timeline. There's a beauty in this story.
Yeah.
That there are these rivalry between two women, and the husband caught in between. And there's the priest whose background is not always greatest, but there's God. So in this picture of multiple people, Hannah is the one who saw the importance of God in her life.
Exactly.
And always goes back to pray, when things around her or people around her are constantly hurting her with abuse and a little missing the point in caring and all the other things. So I see the beauty and I see the point in this text. Despite all those hopelessness, she had a place to go. She had a presence to connect with. And I think that was a beauty in Hannah's life. And that's where I decided to redeem the reason why my parents named me Hannah.
And I also think that Hannah, again, is someone who, while the temple is corrupt, she still goes to the house of God, right? Knowing that God is not corrupt, right? Even though Elkanah loves her so desperately, she also knows that there is a God who loves her, and that is where her salvation comes. That is where her hope comes. So as hopeless as she has been in her life and as hopeless as she may have felt, it is her hope that actually drives her to go to Shiloh and to go and before God and to prostrate herself and to say, don't forget me, remember me, right? And I think there's something beautiful about those words. It really just struck me, remember me. Because sometimes it feels like God has forgotten us in our pain. But Hannah goes to God and says, no, remember me, Hannah, remember.
Yes. And in this materialistic society and in our individualistic society, in our social security and all those safety nets that seem to support us, we forget the importance of recognizing a power greater than me, and we don't see anything beyond what's visible. We don't usually see what's beyond the tangible. We don't see anything beyond that reality.
Right.
But she's the one who saw the reality beyond her limitations and her abuses, her harsh experiences. She saw God beyond that corrupt temple.
And I say this, Hannah never, at least the text doesn't say, Hannah doesn't go to God and say, make Peninnah my enemy, or put her, smite her down, take away her children, whatever it is, right? She takes that person totally out of her prayer and she says, remember me. And I think that is the beauty of remembering that God knows us, right? And God sees us. And if we spend more time in relationship with God, then in our prayers, we can pray the kind of prayer like Hannah prayed.
That's a beautiful way of saying we experience the whole society as a whole, as a structure, as a construct we cannot change. But when we come down to our personal relationship with God, that's where we seek help for myself. And find wisdom and discernment for myself so that we can go back to that reality and face the same issues in a different light.
Exactly. Hannah has a lot of wisdom. I haven't jumped into 1 Samuel in a long time, but last night I thought, I got to get back into 1 Samuel. This is some really good reading. So we invite you all to jump into the book of 1 Samuel and do some reading for yourself. But in the meantime, we have a couple of questions for you. Where in your life do you feel vulnerable? How do you emotionally process your pain? Is it through therapy or exercise, time with friends? What is your first memory of grief? And what have you learned from your grief? We hope to see you soon. You can visit us at church. We have a 9 o'clock service, an 11 o'clock service, which is our tapestry service that dives a little deeper into this text. And we hope that you'll join us. See you soon. Bye.
This is a production of First United Methodist Church of San Diego. To learn more about our events and ministries and to access additional learning resources, visit FUMCSD.org.